Hi there, my name is Oliver and I will be one of your instructors for the Bender ARS course for the 2026 to 27 academic year. My goal today is to help walk all of you through the content that we will be working on in week 1 of the class as we get into the Autonomous Robotic Systems project. So what is Bender? Well, Bender is a project that's specifically focused on building autonomous or self-moving robots. Every year, we compete in some form of competition with a robot that we spend that entire academic year building. You're welcome to join the class for 1 semester. We highly advise folks to join for 2 to get the full experience, but we wanted to provide a class that made robotics accessible here in Idaho. So with that, this year's competition is focused on the NASA Lunabotics Challenge. The goal is to build a robot that can move dirt on the moon, or what you will hear called regolith, from one area to another while avoiding different craters and rocks or other obstacles that might be present. The ultimate goal for this is for NASA to find new ideas and designs focused on one of their future missions to the moon to help them understand how they might start building infrastructure as we start putting bases on the moon here within the next few years. Now, Bender has been around for many years. The team started back in 2019 competing in the Intelligent Ground Vehicle Challenge. Think like Tesla car meets warehouse robot is what the team built. And we still have some of the old robots sitting in the team room for those who are interested in seeing them. Now, we competed in the IGBC Challenge for a few years before switching in 2024 to the NASA Lunabotics Challenge. That was the first year we formally competed in the challenge, and we came home with 16th place overall, but won a NOVA award for Best Systems Engineering for a first-year team, as well as an Innovation Award, and were recognized as the first Idaho team to have ever competed in the competition. Now, while we were not in competition in the 2025 year, we still were able to travel to Florida as a team with the robot we built and test it in one of the facilities down at the University of Central Florida and get data that we could use for this year so that we can come back even stronger and hopefully place within the top 5 at the competition. Now, let's talk a bit about where and how we build this robot. We will meet as a team once a week in the Copper Basin building on the Boise State main campus. Copper Basin used to be the old culinary school, so when you walk into the room, you will notice that we have a little hot bar alongside the wall, but we have plenty of open space to drive the robot around and have our team meetings. When you join the class, and by the end of the first week, everyone will have chosen their sub-teams and be able to start working with their individual groups and part of the robot that interests them the most. Each sub-team will have its own weekly meeting separate from the core meeting, and that's really the time for folks working on one part of the robot to get together and do some of the more technical work. The main meetings will focus on content coming from myself, as well as Dr. Steve Swanson, who is the lead instructor for the program. Then we'll move on to having our project management sub-team talking a bit about the goals for the week and where we are on our timeline. And then the remainder of our course or of our day will focus on just giving everyone the chance to work together and especially have cross-sub-team collaboration and communication, as this is a very large project, and while it's broken into smaller sections to make it more easily digestible, everyone needs to work together as a greater team as we are all working towards one consistent goal. Now, in the first week of classes, you will get an email from Dr. Swanson. That email will not only contain this video that you are actively watching, but also a few different modules of which I'm pulling information to talk you guys through right now, and a good place to come back to if you don't want to keep rewatching this video. In that email, you will also find 2 critical links. The first is called When to Meet. When to Meet is a free software that we use to understand where everyone's availability is during the week. Please make sure you fill this out before Friday of the first week of classes. This When to Meet is what we will use to set a class time, and we will officially start our together in-person classes as a team the second week after we see when everyone is available and what time works the best for the majority of students. That said, if you cannot make the core meeting, if there is a scheduling issue which happens every year, please let us know. We have students every year who can't make the core meeting, but still learn a lot from the class and are able to collaborate with their sub-team and meet them separate from the core meeting and still have a great time on the team. So please make sure you get that filled out as soon as possible. Secondly is going to be the starting survey. This is how Steve and I figure out who is on the team, what your interests are, and make sure we really tailor this course to be as useful as possible to everyone in the course. This is a great way for us to get to know you before we get to meet in person, and a great way for us to see how students are progressing throughout the course, as you will fill this out for every semester that you are on the team with us. Now, while we have an amazing space that the team can work in and assemble the robot, store all of our tools and bulk materials, we can't use soldering irons or other more flammable or larger machines in our core class space. So, as you get familiar with the robot and start to build some of the new prototypes this fall semester, please make sure you fill out that starting survey that I mentioned earlier so that we can get you signed up for the Engineering Innovation Studio, which is also known as the EIS, or you'll hear us call it the shop. The shop is our machine shop on campus located across the street from where our classroom is, and is where we have access to metal machines like mills, lathes, benders, rollers, everything you could need to machine custom fixtures and custom pieces for a robot. We also have access to laser cutters, CNC machines, welders, a lot of amazing tools. Now, to access the EIS or the shop, you will need to get registered for a Canvas course. So when you fill out that starting survey, I will make sure at the end of the first week, everyone is able to access that course and be able to start working through the trainings. The EIS has a series of different tags for students to work on. So we want everyone to at least have the white tag, which gives you access to some of the basic hand tools and the soldering areas. And then from there, different teams will have different minimum requirements, be it the blue tag for metalworking, the green tag for welding, the orange tag for mills and lathes, and there are some future tags coming as well in the EIS. So keep an ear out, as they always have some amazing tools coming in and are just an awesome resource regardless of what project you're working on. One thing to note, the EIS is only available to engineering students or students working on an engineering project, and must be used only for class projects or school-related projects. Now let's talk a bit more about NASA's Lunabotics Challenge. The goal for this project, as I stated before, is for students to build an autonomous robot that can move lunar regolith or dirt on the moon from one area to another. In the past, what this has looked like is the students traveling to Florida at the end of the spring semester and putting the final robot in a simulated lunar environment, allowing us to test the robot on the closest simulate or simulated material that we have to the environment on the moon that these robots would actually work on. This challenge has a few different deliverables we have to submit. One is a project management plan. We then also have a Lunabotics design plan, a systems engineering paper, data report, video proving that our robot actually works before we travel, and a few other things I'll go through here as I go through this year's timeline. If you want to read more into what the competition looks like, there is a NASA Lunabotics homepage, and that is located in the NASA Lunabotics Challenge module of the learning management system for this class. Now, if you're curious about how we've done in the past, there is another module in our learning management system called Past Lunabotics Competitions. There, I've included every video we have of the Bender team competing in the 2024 to 2025 season, as well as all of the live streams from the 2025 to 2026 competition year that we did not take part in. This is a great way to get familiar with what the competition looks like, and for those on one of our engineering sub-teams, it's a great way to get some ideas of what has done well in the space and get an idea of what you will be designing for this year. Now, let's talk a bit about the timeline for this fall, as well as the greater academic year before we wrap up. As I mentioned before, we have 3 main presentations that we do internally to get students ready for the Lunabotics Challenge. The first is a systems requirements review. This will happen the week of September 21st and is focused on having students present what the team learned last year, what we did, and what we are shooting to do for this year. This is not a design presentation, but instead a way for students to get used to talking in front of an audience, as well as get students familiar with the competition requirements and objectives for the 2026 to 2027 season. Now, for this presentation and the two others I will talk about here shortly, they will happen in a public setting. Anyone is welcome to attend the presentations, be it your family, be it your friends, or any other connections that folks have to the team. This is also something that we announce on the team's social media so that other community members and partners can join the presentation as well. When you present, this will happen in front of a panel of selected industry members that will be part of our advisory board, and then the rest of the public will be behind them. The advisory board will be the folks asking you questions, as they are the ones with technical knowledge around different fields within robotics or those adjacent, and then we will open it up at the very end to the rest of the public. Every sub-team will give a presentation. The times of those will be different depending on which review we are presenting. And then at the end, there'll be time for students to not only connect with some of the audience members and get feedback about the presentation, but also to help students build their network of different professional engineers and folks throughout our technical community. With that said, after we complete the systems requirements review, students will work on the preliminary design review. This is now the time that we get to start working on designs, and this is where students get to work on the initial designs for the project. Maybe some small prototypes, but ultimately the goal is to just have sketches, maybe some 3D models, and really just those early designs and rationales of where could you take a design and where do you want to take a design. It's a great checkpoint to get feedback from our advisor board so that students can get a good direction on which way they want to take a design before we start building. Then, after the preliminary design review, we will have our critical design review. This is our big presentation of the fall semester. I'm working on getting us a venue off of campus so that we can have a larger presentation. We typically start the critical design review a little different with a networking session and some materials and prototypes that the team have been working on through the semester. Then we'll go through a traditional presentation format and networking at the end. Now, for this critical design review, the goal is for each sub-team to present their finalized designs, the prototypes they've been working on through the semester, and their goals for the spring semester where they will build the final robot for competition. This is the last checkpoint for students during the fall to make sure that they have a design that makes sense, is manufacturable, and is something that they are ready to start building as soon as materials get in-house. All of these presentations, we will have time to practice. We have time on the schedule to make sure you can get feedback. And we have our board of advisors also available so that everyone can get feedback prior to presenting these in a public setting. If you have any questions about these, please feel free to reach out, but we will also discuss these in class and talk about them more as the first presentation gets closer. Now, let's talk a bit about the competition timeline. The Lunabotics Guidebook will not be released until September 3rd if things stay on schedule. Now, while I'd love to say that things always stay on schedule and when something gets released or says it will be released actually gets released, but that's not the case in any industry, especially as we are working with a government entity. We have to make sure we understand that while some things may get released on time, some might not, and we will adjust for that accordingly. But right now, the plan is for September 3rd for that guidebook to release. So we will take the first week for students just get familiar with the course and then focus on the project. Then at the end of September, after our systems requirements review, a project management plan will be due, and that will be spearheaded by our project management team. Then the last deliverable that we have for the fall semester is the Lunabotics Design Review Report. This will take place before our critical design review, but will contain a lot of the same information, and we will make sure we get a lot of feedback on that report, as that is the final gate we need to see if we are chosen to compete in the Lunabotics Challenge. If we are chosen, we will find out by December 14th after classes finish for the fall academic semester. This will go out via email to all of the students, so please make sure you're constantly checking your email towards the end there, and it will also go out on the team Discord. From there, the spring will focus on our systems engineering report, our robot data report, our proof of life review, and then at the end of May is when we will actually travel to Florida for the challenge itself. Now, lastly, outside of the technical presentations and competition-related events that we also have a few different outreach events that are scheduled for this semester. We have the Cohen Connections Patio event taking place the first week of classes. We have the BSU Involvement Fair taking place the second week of classes. And then we have Space Day 26 taking place September 12th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Nampa Civic Center. Now, if you're wanting to travel to competition with the team, a hard requirement is that you do attend 2 outreach events during the academic year. If you want to know what events we are attending, these will all exist on the semester schedule and initial timeline for 2026-2027 module on the learning management system that we have for the class. This schedule will be constantly updated and make sure that new events are put in as we get them set up. All of these events will also be announced on the Discord so that if you don't catch them or don't want to constantly be checking your webpage, we'll make sure that they're in Discord and in your email as they get announced so that for those interested in traveling, you can make sure you get these 2 outreach events completed. Now, they don't have to be both in the fall semester. You can do them one in the fall, one in the spring, both in the fall. Whichever works, we just ask that those who are interested in traveling do attend 2 of those events, as it's a great way for us to connect to the community and help really get other folks interested in robotics. Now, that is everything for this video. I hope it got everyone the initial information that is useful for getting started with the program. There is more information in the email provided to you at the start of the semester or from whenever you joined and are seeing this. And of course, all of this content and more is covered in the first few modules that are in that starting email. So please make sure to give those a look over. And if you have any questions, please reach out at any point. We will constantly be updating all of the content and making sure that you guys have access to whatever you need, both during the class sessions every week and via your email, Discord, and the learning management system. So with that, hopefully you have a great start to the first semester of the fall 2026 semester, and I look forward to meeting all of you in class here shortly.